Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Star Trek Thursday. I am Matt Marrero, and I am here along with
John.
Jern. All right, so John, you guys know, by the way, I just dropped the remote. You guys know, by the way, if John is on, that means we're talking about TNG. So last time John was on, we talked about the pilot. Now we are not talking about the pilot. We're talking about episode 2. That's how that works. Now, John, what the hell is going on here? I don't know what is happening with this episode. Also, before that, too, I want to mention something just slightly off topic, somewhat, but not really. I didn't know that the pilot was cut up into 2, so it's considered, like it's a part 1 and part 2 situation. So I thought we were on episode 3.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, it's the first regular episode of the show. It's technically the second story. It's the second episode. But I think from a production standpoint, I think they count the pilot as 2 episodes, even though when it was initially aired, it was aired as one feature-length episode, and then for reruns, it was cut into 2 parts.
All right, but what I'm saying is that on Netflix or anywhere else, they'll probably count the one we're talking about as episode 2. Yeah? Because we were talking about The Naked Now.
Yes. So yeah, right out the gate, this episode is essentially a remake or a sequel of a TOS episode, which I'm sure you'll probably get to in due time, called The Naked Time. A few confusing things about this is that the show was determined explicitly in the beginning to try to stay out of TOS's shadow. They're saying this is a new show, it's a new generation, we're not going to rely on TOS, and they were very careful not to over-rely on references to TOS. You know, there was that nice little cameo from Bones, you know, there's a little bit of name-dropping here and there, but it seems odd that they would go right for a remake of a TOS episode, and even odder that they would try to give us an episode that shows the characters acting out of character when we don't even know what's in character for them yet. Because the only thing that we've seen is the pilot, and God knows that no one's characterization is nailed down in the pilot.
Here's what I'm assuming, and I haven't done research on this, so I could be completely wrong here. But I'm under the assumption that they filmed this one far down the line, and then some bigwig was like, wait a minute, it references the original one, and they're all naked? Well, that's ratings for you. No, but like seriously though. No, but seriously, though, I'm wondering if this one was filmed, or at least was in production. I shouldn't say filmed, but when it was being written, was like, yeah, this one will be like towards the later end of the season. And just some bigwig was like, wait, but it references the original. That was popular. Also, they're talking about literally naked's in the title. That's tantalizing. We want ratings. We want this thing to work.
No,
let's lead with that.
I wish it were so, and I wish that was their explanation. But yes, as far as like production order and the dates of filming and stuff like that, unfortunately, this really is the first one they produced after the pilot, and the first one they wrote.
Filming, yes, but you mean writing as well?
Yeah, because I'm super cool. I was captain of all the football teams, and I have a script library of all the episodes on a CD-ROM from Simon and Schuster. And it has dates for all the scripts.
I love that you're like, I was the captain of all the football teams. And I was like, I heard the narrator.
The most popular guy in school. I was both the prom king and the prom queen because I didn't need anyone else.
No, but I'm just saying that, like, it's so funny that, like, I just hear, like, I was the captain of all the football teams. Narrator. He was not the captain of the one football team. He was not the captain.
Even one.
Anyway,
but yeah,
but seriously,
so unfortunately, though,
yeah. No, because it is odd. Because I'm just saying that I'm not. I feel like I believe in the integrity of the people who were pitching this to us. Like, no, guys, we're really not going to rely on it. And I don't know. It just seems like a common thing. Just have a bigwig be like, make it more like the original.
Oh, I mean, as far as boneheaded executive decisions, Trek is chock full of those. But yeah, so they decided to go to back to that well that quickly, and it also doesn't the well of naked water that makes you drunk.
But what I'm saying is that you could have went to other wells from TOS, I would imagine. That's an odd well to jump back to. Like, were they trying to make it seem like this ain't your daddy's Star Trek in the opposite direction? Because at first they made it seem like this ain't your daddy's Star Trek because you have Picard being like, we're on a mission of peace. No, literally, we're not going to hurt anyone. Not even a punch. I know. Peace. Where, like,
Peace.
And then the second one, it's like, this ain't your daddy's Star Trek because naked.
Yeah, we get naked. We get 80s naked. This.
Yeah.
But yeah. So here's what my personal take is I think they had wanted to go if they were going to go back to a previous story, and they probably wanted to go back to an iconic episode. And Naked Time is an excellent episode.
Okay.
But the problem is they didn't take anything that made that one work, and they just sort of rehashed the premise. And then people would say, and people, actual people on the production of the show, when they were criticized for rehashing a TOS episode, they're like, oh well, it's not the same exact disease as it was in the TOS episode, and they even try the cure from the old episode and it doesn't work. So okay, props for that they're not
Yes.
able to just use the same cure. They said the old cure doesn't work, but. And also most unforgivably, and this was fixed in the Blu-ray and presumably the Netflix version, when they're going over the mission logs of the Naked Time, the readout on the screen shows the refit movie Enterprise, not the one from the TV series. But luckily, plenty of anal retentive Trek fans caught it, and they fixed it for the Blu-ray.
Oh my God! But that's pretty cool, actually. That it was fixed in that way, because like normally I'm like, don't fix the errors, but I think that's one that is actually pretty cool to fix. Anyway, so my problem with the episode is, question, side note actually, with the original one from TOS, was that the one with shirtless Sulu?
Yes, that was shirtless Sulu chasing people down the corridors with a fencing foil.
Right. So then I have seen this one in passing in my youth.
Yeah, it's an iconic episode. It's probably one of the most famous ones, other than like the Tribble one or the one where they fight each other with spears.
Right. So my question is this: why you have the naked now? And granted, it's supposed to be like, oh, it's kind of like you're quote unquote drunk. So there's no alcohol in the Star Trek universe as of this point?
There's synthahol, which is basically artificial alcohol that it does get you drunk, but in Data's words, the effects can easily be dismissed. So you can get drunk, but you can stop being drunk at will. Which
Nice.
isn't to say that people don't drink real alcohol. In fact, a certain Scottish engineer would probably prefer the real stuff. And
Yeah.
they definitely do still have that for special occasions.
All right. It's just, I think this episode, the first episode, I'm looking around and I'm like, why would anyone watching shit on Wesley? And then this episode comes and I'm like, oh, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I understand it completely. And it's rough,
this
too,
is where it
because
starts.
it's on the writers, but it still is just has me understanding, like, that's understandably why you'd shit on Wesley. Like, there's a difference between I can help versus without me, you guys would be fucked, especially when Wesley's the one who started it in the first place, somewhat.
Yep.
Somewhat. Like,
yeah. So what it was is that in Farpoint he was kind of like, oh gee golly, I really would love to sit on the bridge, and then come this
nice.
episode, he's got the whole I can do any, why won't they let me on the bridge? I can do anything, and playing with his little repulsor or his little tractor beam thing, and then like you said, showing up the seasoned officers, he made everybody in engineering look like an idiot, even the non-drunk ones. That the adults couldn't figure it out. Like McDougal was like, "Oh, it would take weeks to fix, to lay out new circuits." And he's like, "Oh, I can do it in 5 seconds." And never mind the fact that you can absolutely turn a tractor beam into a repulsor beam just by hitting a button. Sulu did it on the TOS, not the same episode, but another one.
It's just, yeah. Look, I'm not saying that Will Wheaton deserves any of the hate that he got, because fuck anyone who sent hate mail to a child, right? But it's just very odd that he would be written in this way. And I know people have talked about, you and I even talked about it during the pilot, how he's basically a Gene Roddenberry stand-in.
Basically,
you know,
yeah.
like, oh, yeah, basically. Like this cool whiz kid. But I think the difference is, you mentioned people being out of character. Yeah, he didn't seem like the biggest whiz kid in the first one. Like, it seemed like he knew a little bit, and with time he could be even better. But in this one, it feels like it's legitimately his ship.
Yeah, he's a genius.
And
He's able to lock out the crew. Even when he's drunk, he's able to lock out the crew. He's able to completely redo something that would have taken, seasoned officers, weeks and weeks. So that's where they lost us, is things like that.
Like, it feels like his dad was the brain baby from TOS. Am I right? If it was a brain baby, right? Obviously the baby grown up, but it was a brain baby, right?
It was from episode TOS, Baylock?
Yeah, wasn't there? I don't remember who I'm thinking of. Just not baby, but someone who had a very, very large brain. Not even the ones. Although I'm not talking about those, the ones from the pilot. Not talking about those, the ones that met Pike. Although, actually, to be fair, could be one of their kids. No, like, it's just he goes from 0 to 100, and it's very confusing.
Yeah, and they really started to pour on the whole Wonderkind thing really, really early and really often, which, like I said, to their credit, they do throttle back as season 1 goes on, and then even, like I said, from season 2 on, he's still got that, like, gee jolly jeepers attitude, but he's very, he's advanced for his age, but he's working with the crew and learning himself rather than running the ship. Like I said, as early as the next season, they're gonna rein him in big time, to the point where there's actually some halfway decent episodes where he is learning to be an officer.
Yeah, like, I'm sure that's fine. It's just that, even putting him aside, I feel like the writers of this show, just when it comes to this episode, I'm not referring to the series as a whole, obviously, but when it comes to this specific episode, they're super lucky that this show was named Star Trek. Like, again, with the first episode, I was like, what was Patrick Stewart's deal and his problem? Like, he thought the show was going to get canceled and he didn't unpack, like in the first season, like when he was filming, like, what's his deal? And then I see this episode, I'm like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, the name recognition had a lot going for it. It's interesting to think what would have happened if it didn't have the name recognition behind it, and if it was just an unrelated sci-fi series in its own merit. Would it have still taken off? And you know what? Probably.
Well, again, just from these 2 episodes, the first one, I think, you're like, oh, this new show has potential. But then this episode comes out and you're like, what? Because it just seems so odd.
I know what they were trying to do, because the point of the original TOS one was that let's show these characters kind of, and the word naked is in the title, because, like, you're stripped down, like your inhibitions are removed, and the audience gets to see your true self. But with the TOS one, we got to see the characters, desires, their fears, their buried feelings that they never showed anybody. We got to see what they were like, stripped down to their bare essence, and the things that they would always.
By the way, sorry to interrupt. Was that episode in season 3?
Naked Time?
Yeah.
That was season 1 of TOS.
Oh, season 1. Okay. So, but it still was far down, in the season. It wasn't like the second episode. Yeah. It
was far enough in that we at least had a baseline for what the characters were like normally. So that's why we were able to appreciate them acting out of character, because we knew what was in character for them. Whereas with this, we barely know these characters, and beyond that, they didn't really delve too much into anybody's inner character, their inner fears, their inner motivations. Everyone is just drunk and horny. There's no, everyone's just acting silly, but there's no revelations about their characters. Because that would be cool, and I think what they were trying to do before rewrites got in the way, if some of the supplemental materials I've read are to be believed, is they were trying to show you right out of the gate what these characters were about. And in an earlier draft of the script, it had Picard worrying about the families on the ship, Riker fretting about his career. You had Data wanting to be like a real boy, and things like that. So it showed you a lot more about a lot more revealing things about the character. But in the process of the rewrites, it just ended up where everybody got drunk and was hooking up.
Because again, I think that's where executive meddling potentially comes in, where it's just like, we have to, why wouldn't people want to see that? And it's like, I'm not saying that they wouldn't. I'm just saying that, like, it's too soon, even. So that's why I'm saying that, like, having, like, I wasn't saying this directly, you were, but I think even just, I agree with you in that if some of this hooking up stuff and the way it is now, if this happened later in the season or even in a future season, it might have landed better. Like, maybe I'd be joking. I'd be laughing. I'm like, oh, God, that scene with Data. But now it's just like, we've gotten one episode with Data, and he goes from, like, I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, wow, Data can get it.
Well,
apparently.
Here's the thing: we all like to make memes out of Riker's, sexual prowess and libido. Data's the first person on the show to ever get laid. Data and Tasha.
Well,
so,
I mean, I blame Riker not having a beard. If he had a beard, oh my God, that ship would never go anywhere.
His first appearance, it wouldn't even have left space dock because there would just be people of all genders clinging to the side of the hull trying to get to him.
There would be docking. It would not be the ship.
Exactly.
It would be there'd be a lot going on. No, but yeah, it's just so I don't mean to sound like a Debbie Downer here and like just completely like take the wind out of the sails of this thing. But you see why, as someone who has not seen TNG in full, I know of the Borg, but who has not seen TNG in full, sees the first pilot, goes, all right, jellyfish are odd, but I love Q, and I think that there's a lot to work here, but I'm enjoying it. And then sees this, and I'm not saying I hate it 100%. It just is, again, just so out of left field for what the first episode was trying to do, where it's like, it feels like it's like we're on a quest and we're on a mission and we're, going to be a bit more scientific here and we're not going to go for like cheap this and cheap that. And then this episode comes in and I'm like, what's going on
here?
And
that's a good point. I actually didn't even think about that because I do feel like they were trying to frame this one as more, as we discussed previously, they were trying to frame this episode as more cerebral, or this series, TNG, as more cerebral than TOS. And then to go from that and try and acting all like, almost kind of highfalutin, to then having it where it's like, people getting drunk and taking showers in their clothes and really kind of like broad, the humor was kind of broad. Is the thing. So to go from like a highbrow kind of thing to some really lowbrow humor, that does kind of take the piss out of what it seems like they were trying to do. But it gets worse. Like I said, the first you might need a couple shots of your drink of choice to get through like the first, I would say, 6 or 7 episodes of TNG. It's bad, and like even season 1 gets better as you go, but the initial collection of episodes, like the next episode, you're gonna need like something to get through it because it's bad.
Oh God!
But we'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Yes, I do think though what I did enjoy is having the characters kind of break in and out of that. So having Wesley's mom,
Crusher.
Oh, right, because their last name, Crusher. Yes, having Crusher just kind of break out of,
Beverly.
what she... Yeah, Dr. Beverly. Having Crusher, having her kind of break out of this, trying to help people, and also Picard as well. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of funny, where it's just like...
That?
So, I thought that was just in general, their dynamic is funny in this one. It's like, so, are you ready to fucking help these people? Yes, of course I'm ready to fucking help these people. Like, it's just... I will give credit where
credit is due. That, and as far as like revealing things about the character, her very not latent attraction to Picard coming out was super interesting, and that was a nice little ship tease there. That stuff I'll cop to it, and maybe because like I said, I'm not exactly a highbrow humor guy, kind of myself. But there was one point where they're getting like really uncomfortably close, and Picard gives this like Beavis and Butthead type laugh. He's like, not now, Doctor. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me right now? That I said, I'll cop to it. That was funny. But that's Patrick Stewart. Like, even when he was still had the stick up his butt, he was still a pretty good comedy kind of guy.
Yeah. Also showing how the infection slowly goes through the ship. I think there are some good parts of this episode, although I will admit the oddity for me, not how it goes through the ship, but how some people just magically aren't infected, and then they do become, only because the plot needed them to, in my opinion.
Yeah, or it didn't affect them quickly enough to, like I said, like Riker. I think Riker got infected, but he didn't really show any, like the crisis was averted before he started to show any symptoms, which is good because a drunk, horny Riker would wreak all kinds of havoc on the very fabric of space.
Oh no! Again, if he had the beard, all hope is lost without anyone having this illness.
Luckily, the only thing that saved us is that we had Commander Babyface at this point.
Yes. But that's the thing, though. Like, again, why did it not affect him earlier? Well, because the plot needed it to, and I think that's another huge issue.
How an android could get drunk in the first place, which I think they hand waved it that he has biological components which can be but Data's an android, not a cyborg. So that seems weird. But again, the plot needed it.
When it comes to biological components, I think Tasha could attest to that.
Yeah. He is at least partially biological.
I would imagine.
And even that, like I said, on the surface, it's like, oh, she got drunk and banged a robot. But like, at the same time, and I said, the potentially uncomfortable implications of that could take up an entire different podcast. But even her motivation for wanting to hook up with Data, like because of where she came from, and she really just wanted a sentient Hitachi wand. It sounded like. She wanted. Well, first of all, the fact that you use the word sentient Hitachi wand could also take up an entirely different podcast. But let's not delve into your psyche for a second. Let's just talk about something that is actually very upsetting. So that I thought was very odd to bring up, only due to the fact that I don't know if it was meant to be edgy. I don't know if it was meant to be like, even though there's sex in this ancient daddy Star Trek, like just talking about when she was like, oh, I was trying to avoid the rape gangs, those things. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm trying to sit here. Go into that.
Oh, wait, say that again?
They go into that part of her backstory a little bit. In fact, that's and I found, again, another topic for another day, but I found that very striking because in Farpoint, we're talking about how humans are evolved. We're not animals anymore. We've moved past our barbarism. And then, less than 20 years or less than 30 years before that, there was a planet or a colony that had rape gangs. So how far has humanity really come if that kind of stuff is still happening? But then people say that, as a species, we've evolved. Bad things still happen, but...
but a gang is a bit different. Like, that's a long... Like, there's a difference between a bad thing can happen to a person versus, like, on that old planet they had rape gangs. Like, I'm sitting here, like, going...
There's a systemic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I see that, and I'm like, holy shit.
Problem.
Yeah, there definitely is a systemic problem. Yeah, like, it's just... I'm just saying that, like, when I... first of all, in that exact moment, Q should have just fucking popped up. Oh, I fucking knew. Did I stutter before? Like, y'all are barbarians. You're done.
That's what it says. That he's saying, Picard is yelling at Q that they've evolved and they're better now. And then his tactical officer, who had to avoid rape gangs on her home planet, is standing right there. And then, but also, she started. I think she got in Q's face about how, where she grew up. It was, it was a little bit of a different story. But, so that again, there, I know I said earlier that we don't really learn anything psychologically revealing about these characters. We do get tidbits here and there, but like I said, most of it is kind of played very broadly. And it's just, okay, so Crusher has the hots for Picard and, Tasha has,
But that's the crazy thing, though. That's the most that we got. And in that case, I'm still like, I was just mortified. I was like, look, I'm not saying that stuff can't have like, here's what I'm getting at, guys. If any of you are like, well, what's your problem? I can understand, like, if I'm watching Game of Thrones, to know that that's not even just we had them when I was younger. They would show it because it's Game of Thrones, like, oh, good God, right? But in this case, I'm thinking, like, I know it's primetime television, but, like, yeah, I'm watching Star Trek. You know, and like you can talk about some serious stuff, don't get me wrong, but it didn't lead to anything. Like it didn't lead to like her problems being solved or something, or like it just was kind of like a way to learn more about her. And in my head, I'm like, are we ever even going to mention this again? And then of course she says to Data, don't ever mention that happened again. In like a comic relief, like, ha, you fucked an android. And it's kind of like, no, but that rape gang thing was pretty big. Like, holy shit.
Well, both her hookup with Data and the rape gangs. Oh man, I really hate that I keep saying that word. But
that's what she said. She said
and both of those. She said both of those points. Like I said, even though they won't, you know, she said, "Oh, never discuss it ever again." It will come up at a later episode, and a very brilliant one at that. So it wasn't for nothing. It wasn't for nothing, and they did weave it into the overall story very beautifully, in my opinion. So credit where credit is due. You know, it does pay off. All right.
So then, you know what? Then that's fine. Because to me, it felt like it was just trying to be edgy. Like, well, we're doing late night, but then at the same time, you know what it is? Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, this is a point that I wanted to make. But you and I, when I watched this episode, it was a few days ago, so the point escaped me until right this exact moment. I knew it was leading to something, John. The fact that we have a Wesley Crusher type character, which to me makes me think all of the kids should be watching. If you guys don't know, 3-year-old John was watching at the time, not this exact episode, but in general, 3-year-old John was watching. And to me, that didn't seem out of place because my dad showed me TOS because he watched TOS as a kid. Like, I'm not saying all Star Trek has to be for children. That's silly. But I consider Star Trek a family show. So there will be certain maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then okay, my bad, guys. But I consider Star Trek a family show. So just like with Doctor Who, there could be certain things that do go over your head if you're a kid, but in general, it's something that can be watched together, just like you watched TNG with your family.
Yeah, it's meant to be, like I said, a primetime living room family show that, you know, you can watch with the kids. There's still racy stuff once in a while, but it's generally...
But mentioning that to me on the same show that it's like, wow, look at cool whiz kid Wesley. It's just like, it's just a weird tonal shift in the same episode.
It is a bit of something heavy to drop in this way. Like we do, you know, we get in the previous episode in the pilot, we do get hints of how terrible Tasha's home planet was. That is a bit of a clunker to drop in an otherwise kind of silly episode.
Yeah.
But you know what? At least they were trying. You know, I got the sense that they were trying to make the silliness poignant or significant somehow, so that it's not just a bunch of drunk people running around snogging and grabbing each other's butts. Although I have to say, that shot of Denise Crosby's bum in that one scene where she's in the corridor, worth the price of admission.
Denise Crosby? Who did she? I don't remember the actor's names.
That's Tasha.
Oh, that is okay. Then you know what? That's fair. Also, just her slicked back hair and the outfit. I was like, oh.
Yeah, Tasha's like, you know, highly underrated in my opinion. And again, the people from Star Trek that John thinks is hot could be a whole other podcast, and we'll save that for next summer. But
my God, well, I mean, you literally became Riker, so that says something about yourself.
I did. It was, and I got my own. I had my own season 2 beard transformation. So, you know, I'm following the path.
You really are, actually. It's kind of funny. My God, it's funny. But anyway, yeah, I'm just saying that, you know, it's a weird tonal shift. I'm not saying that Star Trek can't be for adults. I'm not saying you can't have adult Star Trek. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. It's just that it's just a weird shift when, you know, you have Wesley being this character that, like, if kids are watching the episode, they're like, yeah, Wesley, you stick it to that old man captain. Oh, I'll have you know, I'll kick your ass too at home, young man. Like, that's supposed to be the thought, you know?
Yeah.
And then we have that dropped, and it's like, whoa. And even the beginning of the episode, having them all, like, legit looking naked frozen, I'm like, whoa. Not like
well,
that's bad,
the
but it's
people,
just like
the Frozen people had their had their clothes on. Probably because I know they said it was weird that people were showering with their clothes on, but I think that was also because you couldn't really have frozen naked people on primetime TV.
What did this air on? This aired on CBS. CBS.
When I was a kid,
assuming?
it aired. I think it aired on depending on where you live, it aired on a different network. It used to be on WPIX 11 when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
When it first was released. I don't
Right.
think it was produced for a specific network. It was different companies carried or different stations carried it.
Got it. So again, I don't think this is like the worst episode of the series. Again, I've only seen 2, but out of these 2 thus far, this definitely is a weaker episode. When it comes to the logic of the disease, I do think that was nice, and I'm happy that they were doing research on it to try to find the cure and everything. I just think that the B plot of Wesley becoming Wesley essentially turning into the fucking I can't remember his name. The Khan to Picard. It was just odd. Like he became his Khan, and I'm like, that's a weird thing to have happen.
He's taunting him. My God. Okay. Now I need to see a recut of the episode that makes it look like Wrath of Khan or has like Wrath of Khan lines over, because Wesley's like taunting Picard from the view screen, and it's just like, I've done far worse than hurt you, Captain. I've done far worse than kill you, Captain. I've hurt you, and I mean to go on hurting you.
And that's what I'm saying. Like it's kind of, and again, I don't know much about Khan, but I do know that it seems like that was their relationship.
So what you're really saying is with the new series, Wesley should be the villain. He should come back, and it's just be him and Picard just fighting ship to ship.
God. I kind of, yeah. I'm just, again, just the way the episode played out, it was just very odd to make him.
I'm going to quote you on that you said that in the episode The Naked Now, Wesley is basically Picard's Khan.
I will tell that to Will Wheaton's face. I'll be like, you never. I will walk up to him at a convention and be like, you never deserved the hate that you got. Everyone was terrible for the amount of vitriol that you got. But could we at least acknowledge that in The Naked Now, you were essentially Khan to Picard?
You became a supervillain. And yeah, well, I mean, he did as good a job hijacking the ship as any bad guy.
And that's the thing, though. Like, how could you write that character that way and then just assume everything's going to be hunky-dory after that?
Well, that's what it says, that he completely got off scot-free. He got congratulated for getting them out of a jam he got them in the first place.
Yeah, I know. How are you going to write something
congratulations
like that?
on and also his solution to get them out of the jam that he caused the destruction of a very expensive science ship. You know, it's like, oh, well, we went to go retrieve the Tsiolkovsky, but, you know, having Wesley destroy it to save us is, you know, that works too. Because I think they were looking to go collect. They weren't looking to collect data. They were looking to find out what happened to them.
Yes, but still, they could have saved the ship somewhat. Yes, the hull was like. Yes, you couldn't. It was the hull, right? Like, no. The what's it called? The not the hull. The
hatch.
The hatch. Thank you.
When the crew was blown out into space, not sucked out.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing, and no discussion of early TNG would be complete without it. It's established later that Data can't use contractions, but in many of the early episodes he does, including the line where he's like, "Correction, sir, that's blown out."
Thank you, Data. Yes, so wonderful.
Believe you me, and we gotta look at the outtakes for the early episodes at some point. But it probably took them a ton of takes for them to get that right. And I remember there was a blooper reel where Brent Spiner was trying desperately to say the word. They got sucked. It's like a correction term that's sucked out.
By the way, all of those chips, I'm wondering like how. That's another thing too, like the amount of work that they did, like to get that looking as good as they did. But I'm kind of looking at it. I'm like, did they just go to like a Radio Shack and just like spray paint a bunch of camera batteries or something?
Yeah, little clear isolinear chips. Yeah. They were they were like clear. They're like little look like clear plastic that they. But you know, honestly, it didn't look bad. And I think that was another Okuda ism. Those are the guys that created the displays and the consoles and things like that. You know, which were a lot of them were just plexiglass with things drawn on them. But
no, it looked nice.
and also very
yeah.
clever camera trick was that they were trying to show the data was doing at a superhuman speed, so they just sped the film up.
Oh yeah, of course. Odd. So this is something odd. In the first episode, we did not see that woman who was working with Riker, who came in to talk to Picard.
Yes. Throughout the first season, there was a revolving door of chief engineers. They didn't have one full-time one. It was kind of a different person in each episode. And then, starting season 2, a certain character will be promoted into that position and be there for the duration.
So here's the thing that confuses me. So saying there's a revolving door, where do they go from there? Is it just like, oh yes, we drop you off at the nearest planet, or is it just like no one questions why?
I'm not sure if it's just they might be that they just take different shifts, or they shuffle the personnel around the bases. But I got the sense that it was just depending on what day it was. It was kind of like a different manager was on duty. Okay,
because she scared the living.
Got fired.
Okay, because she scared the living hell out of me. Because when she shows up to talk to Picard, I'm like, oh my God, does the disease cause people to get older? Because I thought she was playing an older version of Tasha.
No. That's,
well, because you never see this character before. We learn that Tasha has a disease. We know nothing about the disease, and then we see a woman who just walk in and then just start talking to the captain. Captain's just like, oh, of course. And I'm like, do they not see it and we do? What's going on?
A side effect of the disease is that it turns you into an old person in a different department.
Well, yeah, right? No, because here's the thing, right? We didn't even see the woman in the episode until after, at least from what I'm looking, if I'm remembering correctly, we didn't see her in the episode until after Tasha kissed that random dude in the hall, and then she just walks in to talk to the captain normally, and I'm like, what is happening?
This is why you don't kiss your fellow crewmates, because it will turn you into. With honestly, apologies to the actress that plays Sarah McDougal. She looks fine, but
well, no, it's like I'm just saying that she is older than the actress that plays Tasha. So I just legit thought that, you know what it is too. If you remember, dude, in the episode, because this is also, if people are wondering why my mind is anywhere near this. The fact that I was talking about the first episode, not the pilots, but at one point I was talking about the first episode of Star Trek, the TOS, the Man Trap, with Anthony Toto. And if you remember, each time someone saw her, she looked completely different.
Yes, because she appeared as different things to different people.
Yeah,
depending on whatever it was that you wanted to see.
Yes, so Kirk just sees like this really. Kirk didn't see her young and blonde. One of the red shirts that died saw her as young and blonde. But Kirk
McCoy saw her
sees
as an old flame.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's the thing. Kirk sees her normally, as her normal age, which Nancy would be at that age. But then it was Bones that saw her as the old flame, young, like as if she hadn't aged a day. And Kirk is like, not to be rude, but I mean, she's kind of aged.
Yeah, exactly. If you're in the older sex, McCoy, that's fine.
It's kind of what he's saying. It's like, what do you mean? Look, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but I mean, she's so young. All right, that's fine. Whatever you say, man. But that's kind of like their discussion there. So looking at this episode, I just see this actress, and I'm just like, did Tasha get older? Because I know nothing of this disease. Also, the disease could be different. They even mentioned in the episode, like, it's kind of different.
It's a fake out. It's like, this episode's actually a sequel to The Deadly Years, not. It's weird. Again, the transmission of it is kind of strange, and they did say that it is mutated from the original one. It's not the same, I guess, strain or whatever it is.
Yeah. Overall, it's not a strong episode. It's not the worst, again, obviously, but it's definitely not a strong episode, and it's really not. Like, I'm happy this wasn't the opener to the series, but I don't even think it's a good follow-up. Like, at best, it's a good random episode for a week.
Yeah, it doesn't really. I don't feel like it tells us that much more that we didn't know about the characters that we don't find out, later anyway. You could definitely do worse. In fact, like I said, next episode we review is probably going to be in my opinion the worst episode of TNG. But that's again we'll have plenty of time to rant about that. But
I can't wait.
Yeah, so it definitely gets worse, and it definitely gets better. But overall, again, a weird and probably well-intentioned effort, but the execution was just not there.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that, it's something that, again, if it had aired in the middle of the season. So how many episodes again? 22 this season, right?
Thereabouts, about like 20 something, 20 odd episodes.
Right.
So yeah, more toward the end after we've gotten a chance to know these people.
Yeah. Episode 16, episode 17, nothing close to the finale, but nothing close to the beginning. We're good, somewhere in the middle, a little after the middle. Okay, but to just kind of throw it in like you said much earlier in this episode when you said, oh, wow, like we don't know much about them, so how do we know this is out of character just based from the pilot? Yeah,
because the thing is they're not even in character as we would come to know them in the pilot either. Characters, the actors were still working on, and the actors and the writers were still working on firming up the characters. So we still don't know who these people are. We were seeing a different version of them from the already out of character version we saw in the pilot.
Yeah, man, I'm actually intrigued as to why the third one is so bad. I'm really curious.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, because if I have the order right on the top of my head, the next one's Code of Honor. Yeah.
All right, I want to see right now. I'm pretty sure it is.
Anyway. Like I said, I will definitely reserve any comments that I have for when we do that episode. But there's a lot wrong with it.
Oh, it is Code of Honor. But again, we'll talk about that next time. But so LeVar Burton's character, him as what was his character's name again? Can't believe I forgot.
Geordi LaForge.
Okay, LaForge. It was very interesting how his character was different in a way, talking about wanting to see, also kind of getting. It was kind of interesting how frustrated he got, where he got frustrated and it was like, what? It was a joke, and they're like, right, you don't tell jokes like this, LaForge. So we're just gonna put you into a nice quarantine, very nice quarantine.
And instead of using force fields like we usually do, we're actually going to strap you down with seatbelts. That was a weird touch.
Yeah, so thank you. That's actually another thing that I wanted to mention. Again, something else that escaped me for the past few days. Why? Look, I'm not saying that, what I'm saying right now, it would obviously make the episode not happen, which would definitely seem dumb. So I get it. But here's the thing. The episode just wouldn't happen, so I might sound like an idiot. But you're telling me that in this year they don't have something that could stop or quarantine people? Do something that could just be like, oh, no, these 3 people are infected. Well, we're not going to kill you, but we're essentially going to disinfect every cell in your body. What? Oh, come on, what? That happened. We do this all the time.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, and I think almost every other time where something like that comes up, they use force fields. They don't, as I said, it's the future. We don't need to strap people down unless you're into that kind of thing. But and LaForge,
the boldly go.
Thing too. And like I said, I know that my initial statement was this episode tells us nothing about the characters. But again, there's a little bit here and there. This is the only time that we really see Geordi lament being blind. There are times where he expresses that he would like to be able to see, a sunset, or it's funny, he said, I wish I could see a rainbow, and then, he's on reading Rainbow, but...
Yeah, right. I thought he said rainbow, maybe he said sunset, sorry.
Yeah, I've never seen a rainbow, sunset, sunrise, but the interesting thing is that that's really the only time when he laments his being blind. There's actually later episodes where he says that he likes, and I think, I forget what episode it was, but he says, the visor and being blind is part of who I am, and I like who I am.
Yeah.
So, I don't have no reason to resent it.
And it's sad, too, because, again, this being the second episode, if this happened, towards the later end of the season and we know he's drunk, it's fine. But having it happen so early, it kind of feels like anyone who is blind watching this, who feels has a blind family member, and I say blind watching this, some people might try to laugh, but it's no, legally blind, not completely blind, who's watching this and who then sees this character as kind of like a role model in the second episode. It's just man, I hate being blind. It's like a thing.
That's the other thing too. Is that the character was designed specifically to have a blind, like to have a more quote unquote differently disabled representation on the show, and then to have him, and it's supposed to be like, it gets better. Like, even though you have a quote unquote disability, he's still great at his job, and it's all great. So to then have him say that he hates being blind, that does kind of defeat the purpose of the character a little bit.
And again, I'm not saying no one who is legally blind would ever say that. Like, that is a real thing. Don't get me wrong. But like, I'm just saying that, like, having it happen so soon, that's the thing. So soon, it just felt odd to me. Like, look, I'm not legally blind, so of course I would rather someone who is comment and tell us what they think about that. But it just, to me, feels like it's a great inclusion to have him in the show and to talk about how, like you said, this is who I am. I like this. It's fine. I'm still good at my job. I still love. I still care. I'm still a human being. Or technically, he's not human because I don't think he's from Earth. But still, he's he's immortal. He's amortal. So it's fine. But having it so soon is just like, again, it's a kind of like a gut punch where it's like, my God, like save him saying that for at least a few episodes in.
And again, and that could just be the fact that it was a very deeply buried feeling, and I think that was probably the idea is that on a normal day, Geordi doesn't really sweat being blind, but because it was deep, was reaching deep down into his psyche, it kind of surfaced. But again, second episode.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like, I understand the thought process behind it, and I don't think that they're wrong for writing it in. It was just so soon that it's just, that it's just like, wow, all right. Like, again, first episode, everyone here loves being here. We're all different, and we're all okay with it. And, like, you see everyone's deeply seated problems, and I'm sitting around, I'm like, all right, who's gonna say something about Worf? Who's going to do it? One of you fuckers is going to do it. Which one? Come on, fucking dare you. Which one of you said something bad about Worf? Come on.
And
which one?
And two things. I mean, and granted,
by the way,
I think there was a scene in Far. Was that?
By the way, I just want to point out, thank God that wasn't in the script. Thank fucking God. I don't know if it was in a draft that maybe was removed. Thank God no one said something about Worf.
Like as far as Worf getting drunk or
No, people getting drunk and being like, what are you doing here, huh? Like, thank God. Like, holy shit, thank God no one said something.
No one got drunk and made any untoward comments about Klingons.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And but plus, honestly, Klingons apparently like drink like there's not going to be another day, so he probably would take a lot to get Worf drunk. But
that's really
funny. With the Geordi,
how funny is that? I'm sorry to interrupt. How funny is that? Worf is looking around. He's literally looking at everyone. He's just like, you lightweights. Yeah,
a bunch of honestly, let's go have a couple shots of blood wine with me, and then we'll talk.
Mm-hmm.
But there was the other thing with Geordi though is that he in Farpoint there was a scene where he was talking to Crusher about getting his visor replaced. And I wasn't sure if they were looking for a way to restore his sight or just an alternative to the visor.
Said no. And he said, no, I like this. I feel like I can even see better in a way.
Yeah, so I think it was giving him problems, but he realized that to have it fixed would be to compromise, how the visor would work and probably compromise his ability to do his job.
Yeah. All right, John. So is there anything you want to say before we wrap this one up?
I'm just going to say that I put it to you all. I think we'll end up with a fine podcast if we can avoid temptation.
If we can avoid, that's what matters here. We can't drink any of that disease. What? That's that's technically in context that it completely works. Anyway, though, yes. So far, again, out of these last two, weakest so far for me. But for you, you know what's coming. So you're like, no, it gets weaker.
Yeah. It gets worse, but then it gets better.
It gets worse, and it gets a lot better from what I hear. So either way, though, Thank you all so much for listening in. As always, if you're listening to this through our YouTube channel, those guys on the radio, if you can, like and subscribe. Also, comment down below with your thoughts on this episode, and because I really want to hear how you guys felt. If you disagree with me completely, that's fair. If you agree with John, or if you're like, no, this is the worst episode for you, again, just tell me what you guys think. Would love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you're listening to this through our Blog Talk Radio account, which is blogtalkradio.com/those-guys-on-the-radio, thank you so much for listening there. Or you could have searched us up on iTunes, searching up Those Guys to find us there. Download us and listen to us on the go, on long car rides or long train rides, or at home. You can listen to us on the go by searching us up on iTunes.
We'll keep you company.
Yes, we will. But not in the Naked Now kind of way. More like in the just Picard show kind of way. Just kind of sitting around talking about the old days.
We're the fully or at least partially clothed later.
That's exactly. We're the fully clothed later. Yes, thank you, John, for coining that. That's a tagline now for us. Those guys, the fully clothed later. Either way, though, again, thank you all so much. Love you all. And tune in next time for another episode of Star Trek Thursday, where I will most definitely have Anthony Toto on for another episode of Star Trek TOS. But then after that, we'll get John again, and we'll have a blast talking about Code of Honor. You like that, John?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Clean,
all right.
No caffeine.
Yeah. All right. So love you all. Take care, and see ya.
See you later.